Welcome to Couch Potato Theater here on the Fandom Podcast Network, where we celebrate our favorite movies. You may own your favorite movies digitally or on physical media. However, when they air on cable TV or favorite streamer, you love what you're watching so much, you don't get off that couch. And that's the definition of what our show is all about. My name is Kevin. This is my lovely wife, Erin, and we are here to host Couch Potato Theater. And we are proud to celebrate, like, 40 years for sure of Valley Girl.
Like
Totally. Gag me with a fork. But we can't do this alone. We have a very special guest to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Valley Girl. I would like to bring in Jennifer Walk. What's up? For sure. How are you?
It's gag me with a spoon, not a fork.
Now, at Jennifer's request, we did want to give everyone a warning that we are going to have mature content and language. So for sure, fuck.
Just a few fucking bad words, that's all.
Are we triggering?
Yeah, we are triggering right now. But this is fun. We've been wanting to do this for a while. 1983 is when this movie came out. And everything in 1983 is celebrating its 40th anniversary. That makes us feel kind of old. But we're very excited to be discussing Valley Girl here. I got a DVD copy here, but we also have the special new Deborah Foreman version right there. And I have that one signed. And I'll explain that in a moment. Yeah, check those out. All right, here we are. Valley Girl, 1983. All right. So first of all, I'm going to give a little plot description here. Julie Richmond, played by Deborah Foreman, is a sweet-natured, if shallow Valley Girl. After breaking up with her jerk boyfriend, Tommy, played by Michael Bowen, she is at her friend Susie Brent, played by Michelle Meyrink, party, the social event of the season, when two boys from Hollywood crash the scene. One of them, the sensitive and adventurous Randy, played by Nicolas Cage, is immediately smitten with Julie, and she with him. Julie's friends, however, are not smitten with Randy purely because he is from Hollywood and want Julie to dump Randy and get back together with Tommy. Julie must decide which is more important, her heart and the boy she loves, or the approval of her friends. A little side story involves Susie and her stepmom, played by Lee Purcell, vying for the attention of Skip, played by David Ensor, the grocery delivery boy. Oh my God. Gagging with a spoon. All right. Little production notes. It's kind of important to know here. The film originally was conceived as a teen exploitation film to capitalize on the Valley Girl fad, inspired by Frank and Moon Unit Zappa song Valley Girl. Jennifer, are you familiar with that song?
Yes, I am very familiar with that song. I remember when that song came out when I was 2 years old. And I lived in LA at the time, and it was like wildfire. And I still throw likes in occasionally when I talk, which is annoying, but like it so infiltrated the vernacular of people in Southern California and nationwide that certain words just become, instead of having like and be a connector, like is now a connector. So it's
still going on.
Zappa, so
yeah. So Valley Girl is the song that Frank Zappa and his then 14-year-old daughter Moon Zappa. The song appeared on Zappa's 1982 album Ship Arriving Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch, which was released as a single, became his sole top 40 hit. Though Zappa intended to be a mocking satire of San Fernando Valley teen culture, the success of the song inadvertently popularized the Valley Girl stereotype and its associated mannerisms. Zappa did explore the possibility of making a Valley Girl film, which received several inquiries from several studios, though nothing materialized. Zappa later unsuccessfully sued to stop production of the film, claiming it infringed on his trademark. This song, did it carry over to Australia?
Well, I didn't hear it. No. I haven't got a club. I wouldn't even know how it goes.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'll have to play it for you.
Yeah,
later.
maybe I'm probably do, but no.
Yeah. But Jennifer, I remember this because it took over the airwaves, and a combination of Valley Girl mixed with a little bit of pre-Madonna look-alike type of outfits people were wearing, right?
Yep, very much so. So And it's weird because there are two valleys in Southern California. There's the San Gabriel Valley and the San Fernando Valley. Valley Girl, that as we know it, the song, the movie, is based in the San Fernando Valley, and he caught the lightning in a bottle, and got it recorded. I'm sure he's thrilled that is his only real hit, even though he's a musical genius. But you think no internet, no streaming services, 3 channels, maybe 4 if you're lucky. And that thing was on the radio all the time.
Yeah, I remember girls talking just like that. But it then like other phrases kind of started to come up a little bit. And now I have a picture on here of the posters and such. But since we're talking about the language, Aaron, you shared this picture here of an actual home video release in Australia that it actually has a glossary of the Valley Girl talk on the back. So awesome meant great. Bag your face meant shut up. Barf me out meant don't make me sick. For sure meant really. Gag me with a spoon. That's incredible. Geek, undesirable. Self-explanatory, I guess. Grody, unspeakably awful. Now this one I don't remember. Kiss my tuna. Expression of superiority.
Yeah, never heard that before.
Yeah, I haven't either. Totally meant absolutely. Tubular meant very good. And was it Zod or Zoo? Ugly?
But doesn't this all come from I think we thought this all came from like the surfy 60s talk.
It did. There was an amalgamation of a lot of the surf culture saying something like tubular was basically from
about waves.
Catching the right wave and catching the tube. Yeah. And it's funny too, because like going from the valley to the beach, that was like an all-day thing, trying to get over there in someone's car, going through that traffic and whatever. It was like going to like a different world in a different land.
Well, it's so funny because if you think, because they're not that far apart, but if you were to go from the valley to the beach, the language, if you slowed down the Valley Girl speak and slowed it down as you got closer to the beach, you're getting a much more beach vibe and talking, and it's almost the same vernacular. It's almost the wording is almost identical. It's just a little bit like tubular and slower. Whereas the Valley Girl is like, oh my God, are you serious? I can't believe gag me with a spoon. It's much quicker. And that kind of goes with the beach vibe, because Encino and all that was much more corporate. And then you get into Huntington and Malibu and all that, much more laid back. So it kind of, the language flowed that way.
Plus, they were probably more stoned.
Yeah. Well, it was a weird kind of culture shock because there was the two different things. And I remember there's a movie called Under the Boardwalk, which is kind of an underrated 80s kind of surf style film, but there was people that were the surfers and then the people that were from the valley. And not a lot of people saw that film, but it's actually pretty good. But it really gets into the surf culture and how people and how much of a clique they were, how they didn't like outsiders. They didn't like people from the valley. The valley didn't like people from the, from the beach and stuff. So there's an interesting dichotomy in the culture there. Now I have up here the iconic Valley Girl posters. The one, of course, is the original Valley Girl poster, but does not have Deborah Foreman on the cover. The one that we see on the right there with the slideshow. So if you're listening to this podcast, make sure you check it out on YouTube at the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel. We actually have the Deborah Foreman version here, of course. And this is the newer version as I'm holding here, the DVD color here. But the woman in the original Valley Girl, that was the girl that was Samantha, the old girlfriend, right?
Yeah. The one he ends up in the Viper, not the Viper, the Central.
Central.
I like its original name, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that
Nasty
later.
McFasty or whatever it was.
But this is the side by side pictures from the older to the newer one. And by the way, I wanted to get into I guess our first time seeing this, but yeah, let's get into our first time seeing this. When did you first see this, Jennifer? Did you see it in the theater or did you just wait for video and see it?
I was 13. No, I probably saw it on probably wasn't video. It was probably on HBO or cable when it first came out. And it's probably, if I'm remembering correctly, my older brother, who's 8 years older than me, probably introduced me to it. And like he was watching it and I walked in and was watching and watched it with him.
Was it video or like the edited version on TV?
Oh no, it was like HBO. It was paid cable. So it was unedited.
Gotcha. I want to say for me personally, it was either on video later on, but I think it was probably an edited version on television because we didn't have cable HBO here at the house. So, it was heavily edited, of course. And it's like an hour and 35-minute film. So it was probably like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that. But eventually I saw the unedited version on video cassette. But Aaron, when did you first see it?
Oh, I saw it on video. So when it came, so I'm thinking if it's 83, I would assume it probably came out. Does it say on that video, an Australian one? It might have the date. If you look on the back, they'll tell you when you've seen it. So go down, scroll down to the bottom, right down there. Can you see?
No, I can't. No. It says the please rewind tape sticker is on covering the date, but it does say mature audiences on it.
Yeah, I'm going to say 84. So, because I think it would have been a little bit after, unless it came out at the same time on video, but I would say probably about 84. But I used to rent it pretty much every week and then watch it at my girlfriend Dickie Smythe's house.
So it says that it costs $3 for 8-day rental. That sounds like a deal.
Yeah, I think that's a later one. I think that's getting up to, but yes, it would have been. I'm going to see if I
that's
get it. Say 84. Weekends.
I know, right? Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about the culture of this film and its mark on pop culture specifically. Obviously, we'll get into the soundtrack a little bit later, but Jen, I wanted to ask you, when you look back on it now, 40 years later, and yes, obviously it's dated, but I think when it comes to the relationships and the friends and stuff like that, it's something that we can still kind of relate to, and the difference of culture, whether you're visiting another country, because back then it felt like it, But Jen, I want to ask your opinion on its impact now on culture, pop culture for yourself.
Well, I don't think it's funny because when I was watching it again, it wasn't so much on the impact now, but it's almost like the Adam and Eve of every teen rom-com ever made. Because if you watch it, you can see certain threads, like Julie talking to her dad on the couch about the boy she likes, 16 Candles. The parents own a health food store. The girl works in a health food store. She's all that. All these little threads that different movies kind of expand upon are in there. And I think that to me, it's the quintessential. That is the female version of Fast Times for teen comedies.
That's a good point.
Those are the two, the Adam and Eve of every teen comedy ever.
Your thoughts, pop culture?
I actually don't think it's that dated. It's a weird 80s film because if you look at things like Tough Turf or Girls Just Want to Have Fun and all this stuff, you actually look, it's quite neutral in its way people dressed, because Julie did always have a slight hippie look to her, especially at the prom. Like it was, and I'm looking at it now, except for all the collars up. No one does collar up now. Really,
collars up are not cool anymore.
No, but it didn't feel like it was a forced 80s film. This feels quite neutral in look and music and everything, because I think it crossed over sort of different, like with him coming from Hollywood look. And so it was very neutral in both of them, instead of being these extremes in some of the films that we see with the over-the-top makeup and hair and this whole sort of, how if they do an 80s film now, it's forced. Yeah. You don't feel it. And some of those films can be still felt like that, where this I find is a bit more neutral. But, it is a sort of, I don't know, it's a weird one to... It's like the grown-up version of some of these sort of rom-com versions, because it is quite, I just find it very neutral.
One of the things that I get from it is an iconic timestamp into that particular time in the early 80s, because it's not forced like a lot of 80s movies that take place in the 80s that are filmed now. everything seems organic. Everything seems like, yeah, that's the way it was, especially when they're like down in Hollywood, and, you see the different people on Hollywood Boulevard or Sunset Boulevard or whatever. One of the things I enjoy about rewatching a film like this is not just looking at the characters and what they're, dressing or what they're wearing, but looking behind them, looking at what's on the shelves, looking at the cars in the background and stuff like that. It's wonderful in taking a trip back in time watching a film like this. And I always notice something different every time that I watch it.
I also don't think, because when I was watching it, we talk about the clothes, Aaron, when I was watching it for like the beginning of the movie, when they're at the party, Randy does look different from all of the preps with their Izods collars up and their topsiders. But if you watch him through the rest of the movie, very rarely is he in what you would consider like a Hollywood kind of outfit. He's wearing button-down plaid shirts with khaki pants. He's got a polo shirt with a green jacket. He's wearing blue jeans. He's not what nowadays they would epitomize someone as being from Hollywood. Completely, mohawk, kind of my hair color, the dressing, the studs. And I think because that whole look was even a deeper subgenre, that whole punk look was much more of a subgenre at that time. So plus they're kids. They're not, unlike most movies today, they're not a bunch of rich kids like in Clueless or something like that, where they have daddy's credit card. They're probably middle class. And so they don't have a ton of money to spend on clothes.
But I also think if you look at Pretty in Pink, which is the same sort of, it's basically the same thing, as I said, but you see the directions of what they were wearing, which is funny because technically what Molly Ringwald was wearing is what was in at the time, the pearls and the floral tops and stuff like that. That was what was big. And then all the sort of, the richy riches looked, in their sort of the Gap look sort of thing that they had. But I find that still on too far sections. Like there's nothing neutral, where I find this quite, as you said with Randy, if you watch him, and same with Julie, she doesn't dress over as much. She starts to neutralize her dress. So when the two of them join together, their looks sort of become, I'm going to keep saying neutral, because it doesn't, he starts, as I said, he starts wearing, he's not dressed up in his sort of, his hair's got a little bit of color in it.
He's not too loud and over the top.
And she's not too over the top. So if you watch, she's only sort of over the top in the beginning when she's shopping in that 80s. I swear those jackets turned into a bag.
I wanted to make a comment about the posters again, because as we mentioned in the iconic poster image that we have up here, the one on the left, which is the original
wearing
one,
that.
So we see that it's not Deborah Foreman, it's actress Tina Tharberg, who was the one that was playing Randy's nightclub lover before Foreman was cast. But what's interesting is that what she is wearing is kind of an iconic Valley Girl look. But when we first see Julie, as you said, she has this kind of more neutral style. She doesn't like have the over-the-top Valley Girl look that we would see later on in the malls after this movie and the songs came out, right, Jen?
And I think it's funny because I don't think, even though it's Valley Girl, I don't think the clothes were an integral part of the character. I think the friends were what represented the differences, not the clothing. So they had it, they could dress neutrally, and you got all of the pushback and the fighting and all that from all of their friends who believed that they needed to be in this nice little box. We're from the Valley. We have our friends. We don't talk to people from Hollywood. We don't go over the hill. This is our box. And so I think instead of using clothing for Julie and Randy as like, oh, she's a Val and he's from Hollywood, they made it very neutral, and the surrounding characters were the ones that provided that pushback.
That's a good point. And, I wanted to touch on one topic here is, and you made the reference to this is kind of like the female version of Fast Times at Richmond High, but there's been some movies that have made references to this. But compared to the other films that were coming out in the 80s, Jen, how would you feel that this one compares to kind of showcasing what it was really like, to where in a lot of other 80 films, you get a lot of maybe a little more exaggerated ways.
Tough Turf is a Primal.
Yeah, Tough Turf. Yeah. Even
Pretty in Pink is really
yeah,
the two obvious. They're very stereotyped, and it's
16 Candles too, But I wanted to get Jen. I want to get your thoughts on the comparison of this film as an 80 films compared to maybe the more streamlined and popular ones.
I find it to be a very natural film.
Yes.
It just like Aaron was saying, they're neutral. It's not in your face. This is just like you're at the mall watching these people interact and kind of overhearing them. There's nothing overt. This is whoever the writers saw that this is how it was. They didn't and because it was at the beginning of these movies that were directed towards teens, you had the old Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello back in the 50s and 60s. But these were the first kind of serious movies that were directed at teens that tackled issues of kids in high school. But it wasn't forced. It wasn't like, like when you look at Clueless nowadays, like these are the stoners and these are the rich kids and these are the Arabs and these are the burners, and you have all these cliques. Whereas
it's so on the nose, but that's kind of the point. So yeah,
right. But this just here is the couple, Romeo and Juliet, modern day 1980s with a really bitchin' soundtrack.
Yeah,
but it's the same with Pretty in Pink. Was a bit on the nose. I mean, I love Pretty in Pink. I love and James Spade. But again, it is so there is nothing in the middle. The Ducky's dressed like a sort of 50s sort of look, and she's got this retro-y, I'm going to a rich sort of Salvation Army place and stuff like that.
Movie, Aaron.
Sorry, you hate it?
I hate that movie.
I do. I mean, I grew up with it. But then again, it's the opposite, where, as you said, this blends in with it. To me, it just feels like it's sort of even more it's like a documentary in a sense than it is a film. Mm-hmm. Like it is just a window of that is what's happened. Yeah. Without sort of, and everyone sort of can wear a little bit of this or wear a little bit of that. It's not sitting there going, well, that person is from wherever they are until they talk or act, really.
Yeah.
Like, because they can't tell when they're at the beach. They can't
tell. No, they can't tell.
Hollywood. Exactly. They're like, it's just a hot guy. They can't say, oh, he's got a mohawk or he's wearing something weird that screams rocker from Hollywood.
Yeah. All right, now, before we get into the cast and our favorite moments and such, we did want to discuss a little experience that Aaron and I got to do. Now, this being 2023 of the timing of this recording of this podcast, a lot of movies are celebrating the 40th anniversary, and they're doing 40th anniversary screenings. Aaron and I went to go see Flashdance. We also went to go see the 40th anniversary screening of Return of the Jedi. And this had its own screening as well, but it was a little bit different. This 40th anniversary was on April 20. The showing was April 27th at 7 p.m. at the TCL famous Chinese Theatre, or Mann's Chinese Theatre, as it used to be known, down in Hollywood. And we have to kind of tell the story here of how I found out about it. Would you like to start this story, Aaron?
Yeah, time difference in two different countries. So I woke up probably just having a look at social media and just seeing if, the world's exploded or not and what's happened. And I came across, it was Deborah Foreman, because I follow her on Instagram. And she wrote saying that there's going to be a screening at Chinese Theatre and she's going to be there. And I was like, and we were staying in Hollywood for a couple of days, but we were only going to stay for a couple of days and then come up to Santa Barbara.
We were already going to, because we were going to celebrate our wedding anniversary in Hollywood anyway.
Because I got in too late for Kevin to pick me up and then drive me back to Santa Barbara. It would have been too late at night. So we decided to stay there. And then I saw this was literally the day we were going to come back. So I'm like, send him an extremely passive aggressive message saying, look at this. This is happening. Wow, wouldn't it be nice if you could get some more time off work? Blah, blah, blah.
Anniversary gift.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
it was the day after our anniversary.
Yeah.
That we were supposed to come back. And so I was just like, I'm reading between the lines.
It says in between the lines, get off your shit. Order these now. They could sell out. So that would be, I didn't say that, but he knew what I was saying. But I was going to work. So I was about to teach a class. So I couldn't ring him or anything. I was just like, this could sell out. And it didn't, but it could have. And so then he's sort of he had his own thing where he was in the middle of something. And
how's it work?
And you were trying to buy something. It was the bike. You were at a thrift store.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And
that's
so,
right. No, that's right. I was buying a new mountain bike at a flea market.
And so he sees this message, and then he's trying to get onto the website, and it wasn't
God.
working.
Oh my God, yeah.
Anyway, he got the message. He got it. And then I was sitting there going, I can't talk to you right now. I'm about to teach a class, but you better have this all settled by the time I get back.
But within an hour, I bought us tickets and I asked for the extra time off. It was all good. So we had that going on. So basically, we knew that Deborah Foreman was going to be there, and of course the guests, and we knew there was going to be some other cast members. We were kind of thinking, is Nick Cage going to be there? And we're probably going, probably not. But listed as the people that were scheduled to appear was Deborah Foreman, E.J. Daly, who played Lauren, Heidi Holliker, who played Stacy, Cameron Dye as Fred, Colleen Camp as Sarah, Lee Purcell, Beth, Christopher Murphy as Ralphie, David Enzor as Skip, Joanne Barron, prom teacher, Tony Plana, the lowrider, Josie Cotton, the singer of the band. She was there.
Love Josie Cotton.
And she actually played a recent video in a song that she recorded. And members of the Plimsolls from the song A Million Miles Away, they were the band that they were playing inside the club. They were there. A bunch of other people there, including, of course, the director, Martha Coolidge. She was there. So we're like, well, let's check this out. And pretty much everyone that was listed, as far as we know, were there. And
it was meant to be hosted by, oh God, what's his name?
Kevin Smith was originally attached to host.
That's because he loves this movie.
Yeah, he loves it. Apparently, when his wife was in labor, it's the movie they watched.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, there was a woman that was doing the Q&A
he
instead.
couldn't make it, or he had something.
Yeah,
happening.
he couldn't make it. Here's a picture, by the way, of us at the famous Chinese theater there. And this here is a picture of Martha Coolidge, who was the director. Very sweet. She signed my DVD. And we were actually one of the first people that were there. We got there early, and we kind of started seeing people filter in a little bit. And there was people that were autograph hounders and seekers and taking pictures. And Aaron kept saying, like, keep an eye on those guys because they know who everybody is better than we do.
Yeah, because we're trying to get pictures now. Like, this is like, we saw those people 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And now people are turning up and they've lost hair. And I mean, some of them you did totally recognize, and then some of you didn't. You're like, who the fuck's that?
We'll come back to Deborah.
Stacey was very nice.
We'll come back to this. Is a picture of Aaron and I with Deborah Foreman. We'll come back to how we got that picture. This is Elizabeth Daly, who a lot of people know her work in voiceovers. And then this is Cameron Dye, who played the best friend Fred, right?
Yeah.
So we got some pictures, and this is the actress that played Stacy.
She organized it.
Yes.
She was there at the start. She organized it. She was very nice. She was very happy for people to be there. And they also did a couple of nights at the Beverly Cinema.
Yes.
And they also were there also, but that was getting a bit later on.
This is a picture at the end with the full cast there. And this kind of gives you an idea of the picture here in the theater that we were at.
Yeah, we're in a smaller theater, not the big one.
Yeah. Still pretty good size though. And so that was really cool. Now I want to go back to the picture with Deborah Foreman here. Now there was a Q&A session with the woman that was hosting it, but then they turned the questions towards the actual fans. And Aaron decided to chime in. Tell your story.
Oh, because I never did because half the time you forget what you want to ask, and then hindsight later you should have asked this. But I just wanted to sort of, say that I was from Australia and that it was a show that, it's what I was in my teenage years, and that my girlfriend and I would rent it every week and we loved it. And also the funny video cover with all the glossary at the back,
the translation of the
translation, and just to say that Australia, loves it just as much. Which, put it out there that I'm Australian, which makes you slightly, a little bit sort of special.
Yeah.
And different. And that came in handy.
Because when the Q&A stopped, you saw kind of a rush of fans wanting to get selfies and autographs and stuff like that. And Deborah Foreman, you know, she obviously was like, you know, I got to go.
Yeah, I think she does do signings. She has gotten into it's only just recently she started getting back into all of that.
Yeah.
And so she does, but I think she just didn't want to be
Hounded.
that was hounded.
Yeah.
So I could see her looking over to, you know, Elizabeth Daly going, let's go. And as we're going up, I said, Kevin, I said, follow me, watch this. And I went up to her and I said, oh, hi, Deborah. And it's, you know, just want to say, you know, I'm that girl from Australia. And then that totally changed it. We got photos.
Got a hug.
Got
a hug. Yeah.
You know, oh, yes. I was so happy to hear your story. And I'm like, yeah. So I pulled the Australian card.
Yeah. And we got pictures at least. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
That was nice.
So no one else got pictures. We did. Pull the Australian card.
Yeah. But overall, I wanted to get your experience on the event. And first of all, singing on the big screen was great. Noticing a lot of scenes behind the scenes, little things you wouldn't see on your small screen at home. But Aaron, your thoughts of actually seeing it in the big screen?
Oh, well, I'd never seen it on the big screen. So that was like, you know, bucket list done. That was excellent. I mean, look, when was the last time I see it? I'd probably see it every couple of years, rewatch it if it's been on TV or something like that. But I don't know. It's like a blankie. It's a blankie for me. It takes me back to a time. I'm going through a very nostalgia thing at the moment. I think we all are. Once we hit 50, we decided we want to go back to the 70s and 80s. And that was a happy time because we didn't have to worry about anything and the music was good. And so a lot of music, that's why, you know, yacht rock's so big at the moment, because we are starting to sit back in you know, it is. We're starting to go back into nostalgia.
Yeah.
And it was just, you know, I love watching this film. There's no parts of it where I sit there and go, sometimes when he was waiting for in the bathroom was sort of moved that along. But now watching it, I'm fine. And it is paced really well. And it is interesting watching it again from what we call 50-year-old eyes.
Yeah.
You know, 50-something eyes. And then it's I've been following a podcast called the Pop Culture
Preservation Society.
And there's 3 women who are all in their 50s and they've been doing a lot of things on Grease and Fame and stuff like that. And it is that sort of feeling of, you know, what you saw when you were 13 to what you see when you're now 53 or 4.
And a perfect example of that is when you're 13 and they're in the bathroom, you don't understand why the girl is rinsing her mouth out.
No.
But at 53, you know exactly why she's rinsing her mouth out.
Yeah. So, I mean,
there are nuances like that.
Yeah, and just a little bit. I mean, I think I totally got all of it. Like, there was nothing that I sit there and go, I don't know what they're talking about. There was no sort of, not as much as that watching, you know, like you rewatch Grease now and you go, whoa, okay, where did I miss that? Because when you're like 7, you didn't see any of that. You saw color and movement. So it's, yeah, it was a good thing to sit back and watch it with everybody and just feeling the love with everybody who wanted to be there and spending it with you, darling.
Oh, God, that was great. I was like one of the great moments of sharing our anniversary week together.
Yeah,
you know, and just being able to do that. And so,
and I'm eternally jealous. that had me flipping you guys the bird the entire night. I was like,
that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, we were doing this.
Going, man, I wish my trip was a month earlier.
So I wanted to share a Instagram post that Aaron brought to my attention. We thought was really sweet. Now, obviously, we weren't surprised that Nick Cage didn't show up. You know, he's Nick Cage, of course. But it was nice though, because in the theater we had like a lot of the celebrities were just kind of sitting together behind us. You know, there wasn't like a VIP section, so to speak. So it was cool. But the Instagram post that she wrote here, I'll read it here. It says, Deborah Foreman, I'm now sitting in my hotel room and ruminating over a 4-day stay in Los Angeles, celebrating the 40-year reunion of Valley Girl. I did a couple of Q&As after each showing. I've done them before, but what I didn't expect on Saturday night, our official release date 40 years ago, was to see Valley Girl for the first time like I have never seen it.
I just want to interrupt. That was at the Beverly Cinema.
Right.
So that's not what the one we did.
Yep.
It was a couple of nights later.
Yeah, which is a little bit smaller theater. Martha Coolidge, our director, turned to me and said the same thing. The audience's energy was so genuine and respectful, and you just knew and felt the love in the room. When the song I Melt With You played during Randy and Julie's montage, everyone was quietly singing the song. It was a moment to behold. I think Valley Girl is a love letter to every man and every woman's first love. I'm proud and deeply grateful to have been the lucky girl that was picked to play Julie Richmond. Nick Cage will always be the love of my life between the words action and cut. Heart emoji. Hashtag live a life filled with love, among other things there. So that was really, really sweet.
Yeah, I like that.
You can tell that moment that weekend meant a lot to her. And you know what? I got the same feeling with the fans that we saw it with the first screening on that Thursday night. We felt that we were watching something special.
It was like when we went to see DAD.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You had those older fans that might not have never seen it on the big screen. That it's that time in our lives where I think we start going backwards. We're not going forwards anymore. We're now going backwards.
Take 1 year off after every year. There we go.
And then we just keep going further and further backwards.
All right, guys, I want to get into the next segment here. I want to talk about our favorite scenes, moments, maybe any other observations, because we both watched this recently. Even we just watched it. You watched it on your own a little bit. I watched it now. Jen, you just watched it. Tell me some of your favorite scenes and moments of this film.
So I remember probably when I was 13 or 14, we were up here in Reno visiting some friends of my mom. And my older brother, John, was talking about this movie. And this is something I find very true about this movie. That whole scene when they play the entirety of I Melt With You by Modern English.
She stole mine.
And it's going from point to showing their entire, and I'm getting goosebumps thinking of it, substance. Without having a word of dialogue, just a song, and just showing them interacting, substance. And that to me is the perfect quintessential movie song montage ever made. Like that is the gold standard, because it just conveys so much emotion, so much depth into their relationship, to see how they came together, what they're doing, how he's at the mall, she's in the valley, she's in Hollywood, and how that give and take and that push and pull that you have in any relationship where two people who, people are different. But that to me is the best scene. And then Tommy getting guacamole in his face.
Would you, to go off of what you just said and the fact that this was your favorite scene, and I'm sure it's a lot of people's favorite scenes, and I want you to elaborate more. Would you say one of the best 80s montages of all time?
So I love 80s montages, and it's an 80s montage. It didn't seem to happen anywhere else. It was a thing in the 80s where you got a song, and then, I think they had it in Flashdance. This is number one. Second is Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
The dance one?
Oh, yeah.
The dance montage, yeah.
Best in the middle, and they're learning the dance. But again, amazing song. And you just love the song. And again, it is that. And as I said, there's a wonderful scene. It was just on before where they're walking up kissing, and they both got the leather jackets on.
Yep.
But again, he's at the mall, or they're laughing, or they're doing sort of,
Right.
And it is, you can see a lot of love. And and it leads into, of course, other things, and then her talk with her dad. But that this is kismet. This is what they found straight off. First off, it was, a bit of sort of, visual. Then it got to like, she's different, he's different. Was just truly dazzling. And again, it's, there's certain other bits. I think I like the little bit with the girls dancing and all sitting around at Stacey's mum's place.
Right.
It's always quite fun. Right. And the prom's good because, it's,
They are Valley High. Her whole speech is hilarious.
She had one take on that.
Prom. It's a junior prom. It's not a senior prom.
No, I know.
Valley High junior prom, which was you always think that they're seniors.
No, they're not.
But it was a junior prom.
So how old would they be? Because I'm confused with all this. We just went to high school. I don't know why you just don't have one thing.
Well, obviously they're not graduating, so it'd probably be like 11th grade.
11th grade.
It's 16, the year before 16, you 17. Graduate. Yeah.
That doesn't 16, make. 17. Okay. So 16, 17. We had a debate about this, and we'll probably get in a bit more about. We think he's older. I reckon he's about 18. Yeah,
because they don't really show his school. They don't show
anything about him.
They don't show his home, his family.
He goes to Hollywood High.
He goes to Hollywood High, but I think he might have done an extra year.
Maybe he was on the 6-year plan instead of the 4-year plan.
Oh, he might have skipped a year.
I want to touch on a couple of my favorite scenes. First of all, I want to give a shout out to the parents. Any of the scenes they were in, because they are like the coolest parents of all time.
Why can't my parents be that cool?
Exactly. I don't have the guy's name right now, but the guy looked like
Frederick Forrest.
Yeah, Frederick Forrest. He looks like Sonny Bono, but I remember him as the police captain in the first season of 21 Jump Street. With Johnny Depp, and then they got rid of him for whatever reason.
If you couldn't get David Carradine, you got him. There's another one. He's all the same people. But he was in The Rose. He played the boyfriend in The Rose.
Those Apocalypse Now?
Yeah.
Those scenes of the parents are great. But one of my favorite scenes, I love, of course, the Plimsolls playing in the band, playing the band in the club. One of my favorite scenes because it's a great song. It's iconic. They talked about that though at the Q&A and how important that song was to the LA scene and the Plimsolls, how important they were to the LA scene. But the scene that really kind of sticks with me is when they take Julie and her friend down to Hollywood for the first time. And what's important about this scene, especially if you're a guy, is you're showing off for the girl, obviously, but also you're trying to show off where you're from. And the coolest thing that you can do to the girl that you've got the crush on is being center of attention from other people. He's yelling at people that he knows on the side of the street. And Julie's kind of impressed with this, that they know who he is. He's not a loner or an idiot. These people of all different likes know who he is. They're joking with him on the side of the street. They know he's somebody. And it's kind of a subtle scene. And you can see that she feels a little uncomfortable, but she's kind of impressed. And also too, watching Fred and Stacy, yeah, running around the car, and
that was an ad lib. So apparently that was ad lib. That was not in the. That's just something that they did. But what I always love about these scenes, and it's funny when you know that area, is that if you actually trace, because they're doing landmarks, Rainbow, and then you're going to come across a couple of strip joints, and it's like they end up at the Viper Room, which wasn't. That was the Central. It was
called the Central at the time. Yeah.
It still had a bad name before that. But if you know Hollywood, they've zigzagged all over the place because it's just the way, instead of doing it in a sort of, that's a literal way, they've just literally gone back and forward, around, up and down, around. And it's like, this doesn't even make sense because you just know this area so well. Yeah. And it's like, why are you going backwards?
I did want to touch
the best lines in the movie.
Oh, we're doing that now. So go for it.
Okay.
What's the best line?
They attack the car. Save the radio.
Yes.
Save the radio.
My two favorite lines are when Fred says, "I'm Fred. I like tacos, 71 Cabaret, and my favorite color is magenta." And
which is in his hair.
When Tommy is going to the movies and Nick Cage is working there.
Pick a pepper.
While getting his ticket from Randy, who is working as an usher. Wearing 3D glasses. He goes, "Bitchin', is this in 3D?" And Randy goes, "No, but your face is." I love that. Aaron, did you have any
that's one of my favorites. But I always just like, you die, Richmond. While when they're in the car, you die, Richmond.
Yes.
And then when he's pissed off at her, fuck you for sure, like totally. And it's like,
yes.
I have used that. I have yelled that at people because it's like, you're telling me this, you're listening to your friends. You're not paying attention to what's going on between us. So fuck you for sure. Like totally. And I'm out.
Do you know what I
love
like about the parents though? So even though they're the hippie ones, they seem to be the most worried, where all the others are nowhere. Like we don't know where anybody else is, you know, like in
Because they
Stacey's
did it all in
parents
the 60s. They know what the children
No,
can
no, I
do.
know that, but they still get. So even though they're acting as the cool parents, they're still wanting to know about their child's life.
Yeah.
Where all the others seem to, not that we get to know that, but they don't seem to. Like even Stacey's mum's trying to, you know, not Stacey's, Susie's mum's trying to still skip.
Right.
Like, but Julie's parents, even though they should be the ones that just go, you go and do your own thing, they still have a go with her when she turns up the next day.
Yeah.
And she's never done it. She's never had to rebel because she's had that sort of, I suppose, rope to go with.
A lot of freedom.
A lot of freedom, but
Yeah.
still with them
with guardrails.
wanting.
With
With guardrails. They're still coming in and talking to her and saying, you know,
Yeah.
we don't want you, just, you know, just be, you know, true to yourself and don't get yourself into sort of, you know, because we know what can happen. But
They just want the phone call. You know?
they just want to know she's alive.
So let's get into the cast a little bit here because you know it's got an iconic cast here. Of course, we have and I'm going to ask you guys, and I'm going to tell you mine. I want to know who your movie crush is on this film. But first, we got, of course, Nicolas Cage here. These are then and now pictures to have a little fun here, of course. Deborah Foreman, of course, she wears her hair a little bit shorter now.
Yeah, she had it cut off.
Yeah, it's Deborah Foreman as Julie. And here is Elizabeth Daily as Lauren. We've got Cameron Dye as Fred here.
With magenta in his hair.
Yes, magenta in his hair, yeah. And then we have, what was it?
Susie.
Stacy.
Oh,
Is this?
no,
No, this
no,
is
it's
Susie,
Susie.
right? Yeah, Michelle Meyrink. Of course, we were talking off camera beforehand, Jennifer. We remember her more from Real Genius
and
And
Revenge of
the
the
Outsiders. She was what?
Outsiders.
The Outsiders.
And Revenge of the Nerds as well. Yep. And then, of course, we have Lee Purcell as Beth. All right. And then, of course, we have the Tommy, played by Michael Bowen. Of course, I always think of him now from Kill Bill as like, my name is Buck, and I like to fuck.
Actually, I just remember him from Breaking Bad.
That too. Yeah, Breaking Bad.
He was William Zabka before William Zabka became William Zabka.
Pretty much. Yes. Well done. And, of course, the parents here as well.
So true.
He was.
He was. If you
Like
couldn't get
Billy
him,
Zabka, his whole persona
Yeah,
on
that's
Tommy
right.
from Valley Girl.
Okay, Jennifer, who is
Yes.
your movie crush in this film? Do you have
With the exception of the triangle of chest hair that makes absolutely no sense.
We talked about that when they were saying, 'cause it was on the
I
big
still to
screen. It
this
was
day
so
don't understand.
pronounced.
I don't know if it was shaved or
It was shaved. It was shaved. You know
What
it totally
was the point then?
There it is.
but
There's a
it-
little thing up there.
It would be Nick Cage
Nick Cage.
at this age. Not
even
now.
even before
But-
he had his teeth fixed.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think he looks good with that.
Yeah.
I would not kick him out of bed for eating crackers.
All right. Wife.
I didn't back then. I didn't. I do now. I actually really liked Fred. I was rewatching Fred, and Fred did a lot of the actor did a lot of stage, and I thought he was very good. So, and he's quite cute.
Nice.
So,
All right. I'm gonna let you guys guess. Who do you think my movie crush is?
G. Daly.
yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. You know, what's funny is if you would have asked me years ago, that would have been the pick. But you know who it is now?
Really?
Yeah. I tell you right now, watching.
So you like a MILF.
She's not even close to him.
That's
though,
nice to
because
know.
She was about
Lee
3 years older than the rest of them.
Lee Purcell was looking fucking hot in this film.
She still
And-
looks fucking hot. If that's
Yeah,
the
she
reason
does.
you thought,
Yeah, she does. She was
still
there
looks
for
fabulous.
she was there for the screening, still looked great, but just seeing her like just like hosting the party too, I thought was like,
Like getting her
damn.
hands all covered in sushi.
Yeah.
Sea urchin, yay.
Yeah, I was crushing on Lee Purcell.
Because that was the thing, wasn't it? Sushi came in then.
Oh yeah.
That was
I think that was one of the first movies where it was actually kind of, and it's so funny because when you listen to the type of sushi that they had,
there it is.
Sea urchin was one of them. Sea urchin's not cheap. Not at all good. It's disgusting. I mean, I love sushi. Sea urchin is disgusting. So the fact that that kid takes that sushi and just shoves it in his mouth with the sea urchin, it's like,
what's the paste they're eating? Is it wasabi? Is it?
Yeah.
They're licking the
wasabi. It's a horseradish root.
No, I know it's burnt in different places.
Okay. Regarding the cast, we have a topic that we need to discuss. While I was finishing up the notes the other day, I had made an offhanded, expected to be very short conversation with my wife here. Hey, did you know that Stephen Bauer, aka from Scarface and
Ray Donovan,
did you know he's uncredited, but he's listed in IMDb as guy in pink shirt?
And then you brought a picture up.
I put a picture up and we looked at the movie because it's in the party scene where he's wearing a pink shirt. He's one of the friends of Tommy. And so we're going to call this Stephen Bauer or not. Erin decided to make it a mission of herself to find out the truth here.
He brings up the picture and I look and I go, that's not him.
It's not him.
It's not him. It's not, don't trust me, it's not him. It's not him.
No, the nose is different.
Yeah, I know. So, but then we were looking at some other pictures. The one where he's got his head turned, I made that. So the guy in the picture is actually, when you look up, you never hear his name. You hear Ralphie's name, but you never hear Doug's name. Never mentioned. But I'm assuming that with Ralphie, then after is Doug, it would be him. And then I looked up this guy, was Robbie Romero. And I'm like, no, it's him. And so then I did a thing, he's now become a singer and he's got a few things on
Robbie
YouTube.
Romero was a musician. And she brought to my attention that he is actually on the stage that introduces the band, Josie Cotton.
Yeah,
and you can see him talking. But when you look at certain scenes, especially in that beginning party scene, it kind of looks like Stephen Bauer. But the picture that I have up here of Stephen Bauer is actually in the same year, because the same year, 83, he did Scarface. And this is a picture of Stephen Bauer. If you look at the slideshow here, that's him in Scarface. And then the picture to the right is this Robbie Romero character. So there's a thing going around that people think Stephen Bauer is the guy in the pink shirt, unless there is some other guy in a pink shirt somewhere in the way background, but we think this is the one because he's so prominent as the guy.
Him. So he's the only he is actually under as Doug. He played the part as Doug. So I'm just assuming that is Doug. Yeah. He's in Valley Girl. When we look at him, it's his face. Oh my God. All of yesterday, it was annoying because there was a couple of guys on Twitter that like, this is Stephen Bauer. And I'm like, it's really not. And then I had to look. I did a whole.
She was obsessed. It was awesome.
That sounds like a fun rabbit hole to go down.
I was picking up pictures. I've watched videos. I'm like, no, it's him. Because as soon as Kevin put the picture up, I looked and I went, it's not him. And I have this weird. I have one talent.
Faces.
I have a face recognition, and I do tests in like England. They send it to me that this person looks like this person than that. And so when I saw the movie The Prestige with Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman, I got the twist in the first 30 seconds of the film because of this thing that I have. And I looked at him going, that's not Stephen Bauer. And then I was sort of looking at it sideways going, no, it's not. And I got obsessed. So I've proved that it's not.
There you go. Stephen Bauer, not.
Not Valley Girl.
All right, guys, I want to go into a little bit of movie information, and they did discuss the budget at the screening that we were at, and how and you had made a comment. I wanted to bring it back to discussion here. Was the woman who was actually there at the screening that played the principal?
Yeah,
the one that's kind of discussing things and talking about her own experience. She only had one take for that. She had to do that all in one take because they're like, well, we don't have a lot of time and money. You get one shot at this.
And I did, but she was allowed to do her own thing.
Yes.
It was her own experience. So she's like, I'm going to make the most of this. And it was very memorable because she's never in through the rest of the movie.
No.
They are Valley High.
Yeah. So the movie was released April 29th, 1983. The budget was around $350,000, and the opening weekend was about $8,800,000. But it made a worldwide gross of a little over 17 million. So in a way, it made money, but not a lot of money. But when you look at a lot of the teen comedies and R-rated comedies that were coming out at that time, and I've been doing the podcast on the Fandom Podcast Network. We just did. We're doing 1983, the movies of 1983. And I'm looking at 83 is known for the teen sex comedy year because so many came out that year. And this one can be classified in that era. But a lot of them were making around under $1 million to make, but we're making around anywhere from $15 to $30 million. So I think a little over 17 million is a pretty good return for this. And I'm sure video sales definitely did a lot better. Review wise, the film garnered mostly positive reviews. Rotten Tomatoes currently give it an 83% fresh rating, which is pretty good. And the consensus say, with engaging performances from its two leads, Valley Girl is a goofy yet amiable film that both subverts and celebrates a cheerful superficiality of teen comedies. I guess that's all right. So Metacritic gave the film score of 66 based on 10 reviews, calling it generally favorable reviews. There was some home video releases and such, and I hold these two up here. Now, this is the newer release here with Deborah Foreman on it, but the earlier version actually has a little more better special features on it.
I need to watch those.
Yeah, definitely. There was a Blu-ray that was released as well. What have I got here? It says,
playing streaming. It's on HBO.
It's on HBO. There's also an alternate version. Originally, Men at Work, Who Can It Be Now was playing during the scene where Randy climbs in upstairs bathroom through the window and hides in the shower, hoping that Julia will eventually come to the bathroom. In the special edition DVD, Shelley's Boyfriend by Bonnie Hayes and the Wild Combo continuously plays from the previous scene, replacing
I remember that.
Men at Work.
Men at Work of Australian. It was always there.
Yeah.
That would freak me out.
But Shout Factory, that is the that they also do horror films, I think, as well, right?
I just watched something with that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's that dreadful film that we watched. Street of Fire.
Released Valley Girl on Blu-ray October 30th, 2018. So there we go. Now, guys, we need to talk about probably one of the coolest things about this movie, and that is its soundtrack. Now, we had a lot of fun discussing in previous podcasts about movie soundtracks. And we also know that sometimes certain movies, the soundtrack is better than the movie.
Staying Alive.
Staying Alive is one of them. Sometimes the movie movies better.
Was it soundtrack or song? Like Against All Odds. Like who saw the film?
Yeah, more people will remember the
the
song than the movie. Like the White Knight song. I'm forgetting
Yeah. Say you, say me.
Yeah, everyone remembers the song. Not a lot of people have seen the movie.
I saw the film.
But Jen, I wanted to get your first impressions on the actual soundtrack, because when everyone talks who speaks favorably of this film, they always speak about the soundtrack hand in hand.
It is one of, if not my favorite soundtrack ever.
Wow.
It is. I mean, I grew up listening to K-rock, which was the musical genre that played the songs in this. There's not a bad song. It just it hits you. It keeps going. They're all memorable. I now really can't stand I Met With You, but when I hear it, it takes me right back to the movie. I know exactly what it is. Love the Plimsolls, love Josie Cotton, all of it. It just, everything, whoever selected all of the music for this movie I don't even see Sparks in here. Sparks are musical geniuses, and there are 2 songs in there, and I don't think they're listed on the soundtrack.
No, there was 2. They brought out 2 volumes. That's not the volume. I remember seeing 2 volumes.
Because Sparks was, I love, everything.
Angst in My Pants was one of them.
Angst in My Pants, and then there was another one in there. But every song fit so perfectly with everything in the movie. There wasn't like this doesn't work, or this doesn't work, or I'm going to go to the bathroom now because this is boring. Everything hit on this movie, on this soundtrack.
That's the one I had. They're the two.
Yeah. So I don't have pictures of them here. I just have this one up here. But there was one that was released by Rhino Records in '95. They have Girls Like Me, Bonnie Hayes, and the Wild Combo. Now, the other song that you're thinking of by Sparks is actually my favorite song off the soundtrack. And this is when Skip, is that his name?
Yeah.
Is going to get laid by the hot mom, supposedly. Eaten by the monster of love.
Eaten by the monster of love.
Also on there was Mickey, Tony Basil, 0 Hour by the Plimsolls. He was really saying something by Bananarama. In the Name of Love by the Thompson Twins.
I mean, the Flirts. The Flirts are on it.
Yes, the Flirts are on there. I'm trying to remember which one. This one isn't on this one here. Yeah. But they have Do You Really Want to Hurt Me by Culture Club, The Earthquake Song by the Little Girls, Cool Places by Sparks and Jane Wyden, Town Called Malice by the Jam, I Eat Cannibals by Toto Coelho. Is that how you say their name? Can't remember.
Toto Coelho.
I remember that song. Time to Win by Gary Myrick and the Figures, Voodoo by Rachel Sweet, Marina Men by Valley Girls, Pocket Pool by Killer Pussy, and Shelley's Boyfriend by Bonnie Hayes and the Wild Combo.
I love the main song. Girls Like Me.
Girls Like Me.
Dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
So good.
Of course, we have the Josie Cotton, School Is In, and Johnny, Are You Queer?
Yeah, would that fly now, that song?
No.
Is that a trigger song now?
Probably.
Because that is a memorable song. Because that's the one you just sang to everybody.
So Girls Like Me by Bonnie Hayes. That's the one that you like, right?
Yeah. But I also like the song I probably can't mention right now.
Johnny, Are You Queer?
Yeah.
Johnny, Are You Queer?
They used to do the hands.
It's great. But, the way Josie sings the song on stage, though, it's great, and they do the hands, stuff like that. Yeah, it's not going to fly now at your junior prom.
Suck it up.
Yeah, but it's
one of the best soundtracks ever.
It is. It is. I could, and it's funny too, because when those songs come on while you're watching it, you're grooving with it and you're feeling it. And it just takes you back into that time.
But I'm assuming that Melt for You was already out.
Oh yeah. I'm sure
that
it was
had
too.
been out, and then it made it more iconic.
It had been out,
and a
but I think
Jacks
it charted and became linked with the movie. So it had been out,
totally linked,
but that movie and MTV coming out and the video with it.
Yeah.
It got linked to Hungry Jack's, which is your Burger King.
Yes.
So
in Australia, she's talking about that song became a huge advertising push for their version of Burger King's called Hungry Jack's in Australia.
Yeah, they made.
I melt with you. Go figure.
They made money again.
Yeah, definitely.
And were they a punk band or something? Like isn't it their
New Romantic?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
they were New Ro.
Yeah. All right, guys, we have a little bit of trivia here. Stuff we kind of already touched on, but we'll get into a little deeper here. So the club scenes where Randy takes Julie were filmed on the Sunset Strip Club, originally named Filthy McNasty's.
Oh, I love that.
In the 1960s and 70s. In the 80s, it was called the Central.
Boring.
Which was later purchased by Johnny Depp and is now known as the Viper Room. And it's still there, but unfortunately, it's more infamously known as where River Phoenix died on Halloween in 1993. Ironically, 10 years later.
This is true. I stood next to Michael Wincott.
Tell your story.
Oh, we just went into the Viper Room and Flea was playing, of course he was, and then I stood next to Michael Wincott from The Crow, as you do when you're in
thank you.
the 90s.
Michael Wincott, that name is familiar. I know that name.
The villain in The Crow, and
I know exactly who it is now.
Three Musketeers, and yeah. So question, Jennifer, have you ever been to the Viper Room? No. I've been there a couple times. The last time I went in 2008, I think it was. I went to go see a Canadian punk rock star by the name of Biff Naked, and
I was in Buffy.
Yeah, she was in the scene in Buffy. And I've always been a big fan of hers, and she played there. It's so funny, though. There was an opening band, but she decided to have her band go on first because I guess they had to get out and go to another show. But it's very small. And there's also, is it the Dark Side of the 90s, where there's an episode about
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
About the Viper Room. It's streaming on, I think, on Netflix or something, and they talk it to they talk to a lot of people that were there, including the lead singer of Counting Crows, who used to be a bartender there. He talks about, when he was set up to meet and hang out and go, and eventually he started dating Jennifer Aniston, and a really good documentary about the Viper Room, and it is still there. So
yeah, we went past it recently.
Yeah.
We took photos. We took photos of all the places. That
went to every other club in Hollywood, but I never went to the Viper Room.
Yeah. Nicolas Cage had a real life crush on Deborah Foreman. He later admitted in an interview, quote, "I just adore Deborah. So there was very little acting on my part. Cage would write her poetry on the set, and one poem was titled American Girl, which Foreman still has to this day." Aww.
Speaking of, just a little segue, because it's on the TV right now. It's the ending of the two of them getting together. Do you think that when, they're heading off to where they were meant to be going with Tommy, do you think they had sex that night? Okay,
hold that question.
Oh.
That question is going to be speculated at the end of this podcast.
Oh, okay.
Because I want to know too. There. Yes, I want to know too. Okay, the last bit of trivia I have here is when Randy, Nicolas Cage, and Fred, Cameron Dye, are in the hills overlooking the valley, Randy takes a Wowie whistle from his shirt pocket. Wowie whistles were novelty harmonicas made from orange chewing wax and were popular Halloween treats during the 1970s and early 80s. I remember those very much. Do you remember
those? And wax lips.
Wax lips, yes.
Did you eat them?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Why we were eating them, I do not know.
Those and the little soda bottles that had like syrup in them, and you would bite the lid off and then eat the wax.
Yes,
those. You ate wax.
Yes,
parents hated us in the 70s.
I think
it's amazing.
We were down in Ventura recently, and we went to Rocket Fizz. It sells all of the retro candy. They might have been there, and I didn't notice that. So yeah. All right, guys. I did want to bring up that there was a remake done, and it came out in 2020. I got a picture of it here. Here's the poster. I was curious. I did watch it. She was not curious. Jen, did you see Valley Girl? The remake came out in 2020.
I think I had an intention of watching it and maybe watched the first minute and said, no.
Okay.
It's a musical.
It is a musical. We'll get into that in a second. The description says a pair of young lovers from different backgrounds defy their parents and friends to stay together. Set to new wave 80s soundtrack, a musical adaptation of the 1983 film. And it stars Jessica Rothe as Julie and Josh Whitehouse as Randy.
That Josh Whitehouse was in Daisy Jones.
Oh,
the bass player.
Oh, okay, there
the
you
one
go.
Who didn't get yet.
But go back to the movie slide, the poster.
Yes.
slide.
Yes. Yeah.
So when we talk about the original Valley Girl and the clothing they wore not feeling forced.
Yeah, this is forced.
This is a forced interpretation of. We've got the Madonna lace in the hair. We've got the rolled up bolero jacket. We have the guy in the leather jacket, because this is what we think this couple was like in the 80s. So
Randy could not afford that leather jacket if he's going to be that guy.
Unless he went to Aardvarks and bought it.
Thank you. Aardvarks.
Best thrift store ever.
By the way, thank you for the Melrose shout out. Of course, this scene in Pretty Woman was filmed outside Aardvarks.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Nice down the street from it.
Yeah, that looks like some of the hair you.
That's Madonna hair. That's Madonna hair.
No, we're talking about the guy, right?
Yeah.
So, but I did want to mention though. So, Alicia Silverstone of Clueless fame is playing an older Julie, talking to her daughter now, and her daughter's curious about her time in the 80s as a Valley Girl. And then it goes back in time and goes through.
So why didn't they have Deborah Foreman playing that if she's in the friggin' movie?
I don't know why they have Deborah Foreman, but Deborah Foreman was in this movie. Several of the Valley Girls from the original movie make cameo appearances. Deborah Foreman plays the shop girl who comments on the pink prom dress. Elizabeth Daly, Lauren in the original, plays Mickey's mom. And Heidi Holliker, who played Stacy in the original, plays Mrs. H, a woman at the pep rally who comments, "Check out that bod." So yeah, they kind of missed the mark with this. Here's a still from the girls in the mall.
Forced.
Very forced look there. Not like this one here from
you look at Julie's dress. So when we're going back about Julie and how the influence of her parents actually goes, because you look at the sort of the blouse, the peasant blouse she wears.
That first one when she's doing the buttons, it's like she took it from her mom's closet.
Yeah, pretty much. And then the dress, the prom dress, there's no taffeta.
No, what? I'm sorry?
Taffeta.
What's
taffeta? It's a satiny kind of material.
The big puffy sleeve.
That's not part of teenage boys' vernacular.
She's literally wearing a little hippie sort
teenage
of
boys try to get them off of girls, but
yeah,
this is true. All right, now back to this remake. I did want to read a couple of reviews here.
Stick pins in your eyes.
So the first IMDb review that pops up when you look up this film, it says 1 out of 10. Really? Do yourself a favor and watch the original movie. 80s teen movies were far better, and these dull, silly Hollywood remakes only suffer more by comparison. And I did want to read a review that came out by Carla Ray. It came out May 8th, 2020, soon after this film, because this movie hit video on demand. It was supposed to come out in the theaters, but COVID was still a thing, so it went to video on demand.
That was the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
May of 2020. COVID hit March 17th was when everything shut down.
Yeah. So she goes on to say, Carla says, the Valley Girl remake's hokey dialogue and mediocre acting might be forgivable. Here, I'm going to get a picture up of the poster here. Here we go. Might be forgivable, but the movie does something that's pretty unforgivable for fans of the original Valley Girl movie. It changed the plot so that modern English's I Melt With You, the signature song from the original Valley Girl soundtrack, is supposed to be written by Randy for Julie. In other words, it means that Randy, his band play I Melt With You in a serenading scene that is dumb as you think it is, pure garbage. And she ends by saying, there are some songs in this movie that the original artist studio recording, such as The Cars' Magic, Duran's Rio, Men at Work's Johnny Be Good, Run DMC's It's Like That, and Men Without Hats, Safety Dance, by the way, all cookie cutter songs from the 80s, where the original soundtrack does not have cookie cutter. You really have to dive deep for the real 80s songs.
That's painted by numbers.
It's really the music
painted by numbers.
Really alternative as opposed to poppy alternative. It's deep alternative.
And the review says, it's obvious that the filmmakers spent a great deal of the movie's budget on licensing these hit songs because it doesn't appear to have much of the budget investing in creating a quality film. But I did want to mention one thing. I did contact Aaron saying, you know what? I recognize the scene in the alley, which I think took place before or after a song. This alley that is in the scene is actually the alley of the Airbnb that we stay at all the time. That is right off of Hollywood Boulevard. And it's right near, down the street is Pantages Theater, the Scientology building. Down a couple of blocks the other way is Mann's Chinese Theater. Amoeba Records is a block down. And right to the left of this image here is now the new location of the
Museum of Death.
Museum of Death.
I was spewing. We just missed it. I'm going to be in fourth time.
But yeah, so anyway.
I'm giving you my Aunt Linda eye roll on that one.
I watched it. I didn't go like, I did watch the whole film. It wasn't great. There was a couple of funny moments, but I was going like, yeah, this is definitely forced. It's,
rather stick pins in her eyes.
She would rather stick pins in her eyes. You don't have to. Just don't watch it.
I would rather slide down a hill of razor blades into a vat of iodine and lemon juice, but to each his own.
Ouch. All right, guys, let's go ahead and close this out here. First of all, do you have any critiques of the film, Jen?
The whistle scene is kind of annoying.
The what?
I get the whistle, the little
right.
I think of it as a weenie whistle from Santa Claus, but no, because it hits. It's like Fast Times. It's very smartly done. It does not talk down to its audience. It treats its audience the age they are. You're not like a stupid teenager. These feelings you have are true. So I can pick it up anywhere, watch it anywhere. I love the movie.
What about you, Aaron? You have any critiques?
No, as I said, the bathroom scene used to be just because it went on and
too
on.
long.
Went on and on.
The boots he's wearing in the bathroom scene are kind of annoying.
Oh, did you say? So apparently,
those are a little, because they're like zip up with heels.
Yeah.
Those are a little annoying,
but apparently there is a scene where at the end at the prom, Tommy's wearing pink pants, and then when he comes out, he's wearing black pants. Apparently that was a thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know,
I think I brought this up. If I have one critique, it's not a big deal, and we can debate it if you want. Was we don't know anything about Randy. He mentions Hollywood High, which is actually where Nick went to high school in. We don't know any background with him. He's just like this Hollywood kid. I would have liked maybe even cut down the bathroom scene. The movie, by the way, is perfectly paced, just over an hour and a half. I don't get bored anytime watching it, but I would have liked maybe an extra minute of him in school. Maybe he's not enjoying it or something with his family, something to give a little depth to his background of why he is the person that he is. Thoughts,
so
Jen?
I have an answer for that one. Okay. So the movie is titled Valley Girl. Mm-hmm. So your main character is Julie.
Right.
I think what they try and show you of Randy's persona is done through those visual cues of going to the club in Hollywood, because he's probably not spending a lot of time at school, even though he says he's in school.
And probably not a lot of time at home too.
And not a lot of time at home.
What's going on there, you know?
Because the bouncer knows his name. It knows his name. Yeah. It obviously has a fake ID, because when him and Julie break up, he's drinking a brown bag liquor, drunk off his ass. So I think what they did is Julie's the focus because she's the Valley Girl. That's the protagonist. Right. And what they show of him is all of the external factors that affect him. Not so much his home life, because obviously he's not spending a lot of time there. He spends a lot of time with Fred. He's a Hollywood kid, kind of like the club kids in New York in the 90s. They're not, it's a place to lay your head. But beyond that,
the car's not here.
We're showing you what. Yeah, we're showing you your life based on what's externally around you. Otherwise, they would have called it Hollywood Boy.
What do you think?
Yeah, I still don't know if he goes to Hollywood High. I think he might have gone to Hollywood High. I know he says that, but we don't know. He could have just said.
Could you have used some backstory on
him? He was born late. I
know. I just feel like he's a little bit. He was actually he was younger than most of them, so he was young. He was like 19.
There's this weird thing in schools in the United States. You have to be born before a certain date to be in that grade.
Oh no, we do the same. Yeah.
So like my best friend Laura was born in December. She should have actually. She somehow got in ahead of time because she was 17 when she graduated. So there's this. It might have been that thing where he was born later in the year or he might have missed a grade, or for his age. But I think with what they were showing on, I'm surprised he got to drive Fred's car all the time, because wasn't that
Fred's mom's car?
Yeah, how did he get Fred's mom's car? Maybe he spent all his time at Fred's house.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay, before we ask the question, what do you think happened at the prom, at the room after the prom? I want to get your guys' final thoughts on this film. Jen?
What happens in hotel rooms at like 99% of proms in the
Hold on. Don't answer that yet. What's your final thoughts on the film overall?
I love it. I think it's a classic. I think it's a classic for our generation, for Generation X. I think it's if you were to put it in a time capsule, or if we're on the Orville and we have a time capsule and we want to put a movie in that reflects like what we were growing up as, that would be the movie I would put in it.
Oh, I like that idea. A time capsule movie. Well said. Your final thoughts.
Well, hopefully Seth MacFarlane will call me.
Yeah, I think if you were to choose, I mean, again, we had a movie coming out called Puberty Blues, which was the early 80s.
Puberty Blues?
Yeah, that was an Australian film. But it was all down like,
Is it any good?
Oh, it's a bit nasty, actually. It's like, don't go into panel vans. Yeah, if the don't start knocking if the wagon is rocking. But I find it is, if you were to sit there and go, what's the best sort of 80s, rom-com. I hate rom-com. I hate it. It's not a comedy. I just find because to me it's a drama. There's some funny bits in it, but it's not made to be funny.
It just is. It
just is
a good movie.
Yeah, it's not made to be a funny sort of. It's not a comedy film. I know it gets put into that,
right?
But to me, it is if you wanted to sit there and take out a little stamp of 80s culture and music and stuff like that. That to me, again, like what Jen said, would go into the time capsule.
Yeah, it's when it comes to the teen comedy genre, it's definitely one of the best ones out there. One of my favorites, top 3 at least, maybe even 1. The soundtrack kind of pushes it over for that reason. And I remember kids like this, and I think if I remember correctly, during the 40th anniversary screening, they were talking about how a lot of the people were wearing their own clothes to save on budget and like that. So that felt realistic. I mean, there were certain kids that could afford more, whether they had rich parents or not. And there's the other ones that couldn't, and I remember OP shorts very well. I remembered a lot of the different, styles of what people were wearing. But what's interesting about the Valley culture is I lived just kind of outside of it because I grew up in Santa Barbara, which is 100 miles north. We had a mall, but it was an outdoor mall. If you actually wanted to go to the mall, you had to drive down to Thousand Oaks, or TO as we call it, or maybe even Ventura Mall. But if you wanted to go down to the real malls, you had to go down to the Valley, and it was a different world almost, and kind of an escape from reality. And that's
lived in them.
Yeah.
Lived in them.
Yeah.
Contempo, Judy's, the
I
Limited.
love
Mom would
Contempo.
drop us off at 10 o'clock in the morning, pick us up at 6 o'clock at night. We'd go over to Tower Records, buy a bunch of Duran Duran stuff, go shopping. That scene when she's looking through the bracelets, been there, done that. But I mean, I remember doing that, going and just picking shirt and just.
We never had the credit card. We didn't. We weren't
the old school credit card machines that slid.
Never had the credit. No one had the credit card.
No.
But we used to go. We would say go to Doncaster. So I used to say when Doncaster got a cinema.
What's Doncaster?
Like the mall thing. So we're near me. So I used to catch a bus when we were like 12, 13. Catch a bus to the Doncaster and spend the day there. We go to the cinema, and then we go to Brash's, which was sort of which is JB now, but Brash's back then, bought all that, and then we go to Sports Girl. And
JB is like a much better version of Best Buy, a home video electronics store. So,
but that's what Brash's was, and then we'd spend there, and then we go to the pool and make out with boys.
That you mentioned taking the bus, because that's something I noticed when I was watching it again. So Fred and Randy had a car. But there was quite a few references to taking the bus even though Julie was doing driver's ed, like Randy's going to look really grody after 6 bus rides into Hollywood. Like there were at least 4 or 5 different references to having to take the bus. And if you think of Los Angeles in 1983, there was no subway, there was no metro. It was the bus, and it was not like a New York system where it's actually decent like it is now. It was horrid. And I found that really interesting. So that kind of tells you about the socioeconomic way that people are. Like, yes, Julie can take driving lessons, but Randy has to borrow Fred's mom's car, and Tommy may not have a car because they take a bus. Yeah. How did Fred get that sweet spot at that party on the driveway? Because I've been to those parties.
Oh, I know how they got down to the beach.
No one had a car.
Yeah, no.
So what beach would they have been at? Venice?
Yeah, that was probably down there somewhere in Malibu, one of the beaches down there, I would guess.
But we used to go when I grew up when I was growing up in Australia, we were in Warrandyte. We had just the bus. We could have caught a train, but then you'd have to catch a bus to the train. But we would go into the city, and this is my teenage years, go to the city, spend the day in the city, and then literally there was one bus. The last bus was at 11:59 at night. And if you missed that bus,
You were screwed.
you were screwed.
Yeah.
And there would be 30 kids on this thing. And that was when if you had so many people would sit on the floor.
Yeah. Here in Santa Barbara, we had a pretty good bus system. In LA, it gets a little sketchy because it's so spread out, so you have to know someone that had a car. And
it's getting better now, but
Yeah,
at the
it
time
is.
in the 80s, it was
Yeah.
horrid. You didn't have public transportation.
And yeah, buses were always breaking down. They were in bad shape. Okay, guys. The last question we have is the 5x5 question. What happens next? What do you think happens either 5 minutes later, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years? But we want to ask the big question. And I'm going to put the picture up here in the limousine. Randy and Julie getting ready to go to the hotel. Aaron, start away.
Oh, they so boned.
They're boning away.
They boned.
They're fucking. Okay.
Yeah. Well, they got a free room,
Is Randy being a gentleman about it though?
No.
No, with that smirk on his face.
But she's smiling.
He knows what's going to happen.
But what I like about this, I am going to assume that Julie's not a virgin.
Yeah.
Because the way Lauren says about, what's the question, totally gnarly sex. And Julie laughs and says, we haven't got there yet, or we haven't got to that part yet. But it's not like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. It just sounds like they just haven't, they wanted to take it slow. Randy's probably actually the first time he sort of had to do this, and they just haven't got round to getting to that next part. But now they've got everything there, and they got a free room, and of course they're going to do it. And she's got the smile. Look at the face on her.
She's excited, and he's like, "I'm planning this. I'm going to do this."
Are you saying she was like, "I'm giving it up tonight"? Smile? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, totally. Oh, she's so.
All right, Jen. What do you think? What happens?
Oh, they're boning. They're totally brown chicken, brown cowing. That smirk on his face.
I'm sorry. What did you just say?
Okay, so like porn on the farm, brown chicken, brown cow.
Gotcha.
So they're totally brown chicken, brown cowing. That smirk on his face, like Sherman Oaks, Sheratonshire. Yeah. Like. He and she's not adverse to it. Like she took off. Like she probably assumed that she was going to be with Tommy at night. She's not adverse to this. There is a couple that is going to consummate this relationship, and that look on his face is like, I'm getting some.
Okay, all right.
And it's adorable.
So here's the next question, a follow-up question to this: how long does this relationship last? What do you think, Jen?
Probably like most teenage young adult, they probably go in different directions. They have different expectations because you don't really know what their plans for life are. So, I would assume they're together for a while and then they go their separate ways, but somehow still remain friends.
Yeah, I go with that.
Yeah.
I reckon it's a couple of years, 2 years. 2 years.
Yeah.
Like it's hot and heavy and it's really great and it's all fun while we're young and we don't have responsibilities and we don't have to worry about all this shit.
She seems like the college, like she would go to a college for, something, maybe go away for college. Randy, I don't know, unless
he ends up working with the parents at the health food store.
I don't
because her and
selling wheatgrass juice, wearing buffaloes like they did in Woodstock.
Ick.
Oh man. All right, guys, this has been awesome. First of all, Jen, thank you so much for coming on.
It's about fucking time. How long have we been talking about this one?
I know, right? Well, it just, it's funny. We talked about doing it sooner, but then when the movie came up of seeing it live with a Q&A, we're like, we might want to wait till after that so we could discuss it and talk about it.
And the next one, Aaron, girls just want to have fun.
Oh, so good. Yes.
That can be arranged. Yeah. When did that come out, by the way? What year?
Oh no, I think it's about
1983, did it?
No, it's older.
Yeah.
It's about 86, 87. It's a later one.
Well, we'll check on that, definitely. So anyway, real quick before we close things out here, this is the Fandom Podcast Network. And if you're watching this, thank you for checking this out on YouTube. If you're listening to this, please check us out on YouTube. Give us a like and a subscribe. Please share. Our master feed for all of our audio podcasts can be found at fpnet.podbean.com. Please we'd love reviews. If you're major podcast platforms, we'd appreciate that. Check us out on Facebook too. You can also email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Fandom Podcast Network is also on Instagram and Twitter. Please give us some follow and shout out there. My name is Kevin. I am on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix. Jen, where can we find you?
My name is Jennifer, and I'm on Instagram under ChefStomp91.
Awesome. Wife, where can we find you on Instagram?
Instagram under Erin Gill 666.
Nice. Erin Gill 666. First of all, Jen, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a lot.
Thanks for
of fun.
having me. I'll see you in a few days.
That's right. Yeah. Coming out to Cali.
Yes.
To Cali, so
going back to Cali.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, we hope you guys have enjoyed Valley Girl 1983. Please check it out. Let us know what you think through social media. Reach out to us. Again, this is Couch Potato Theater, Valley Girl 1983. Also discussing the 40th anniversary screening at the Hollywood TCL Chinese Theatre. I just want to give a special thanks to Deborah Foreman, Elizabeth Daly, Martha Coolidge, and the whole cast that showed up, took time out of their schedule to come visit and talk to the fans and get pictures. That went really well. I just thought that was
did.
Nice.
It was a really good night, and I always pulled the Australian card because you get everything.
Yeah.
it's nice when people of that caliber understand their moment in time and the effect that it basically had on a generation. Like, there are some that are like, oh, I don't do fan stuff. But to be able to acknowledge and understand that this period of time, this little lightning in a bottle had such an effect on so many people, and you are so willing to open yourself up to that, to take the plaudits, to take it all in and just be gracious and not be like, oh, well, I did that, but it pigeonholed me. No, to hear that was such an amazing experience that everybody opened themselves up. That's every movie star and anybody who is in a pick where they get pigeonholed or where they're cast in a specific role needs to be like that, because it's an amazing experience, and I think we need more of it.
Perfectly said, Jen. And as we saw that reflected in that Instagram post by Deborah Foreman after she did those screenings. So anyway, Jen, thank you so much. Erin, thank you so much. Been a lot of fun, like, for sure.
Like totally.
Fuck you, for sure. Like totally.
Totally.
And that's where we're going to end it. Thanks again, Erin, Jennifer. Until next time, we will see you on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.